Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my third installment of me reading deep Reddit stories. I hope you enjoyed the last one. This is also going to be a long one, so grab some snacks and sit back and relax. Our first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my roommate out of my house while he was financially struggling and caused a big problem for me and my girlfriend? I work in filmmaking and run a small production agency in Hong Kong. I live with my girlfriend in a 4-room apartment. We share the main room and we have an office room, an equipment room and a spare guest room. A friend of mine, let's call him Carl, said he's been struggling financially after losing his job 9 months ago and he asked to stay for a few months. I agreed and told him he wouldn't have to pay rent unless he could. Over the past 3 months, things kept going missing: 2 lenses, 3 wireless audio microphones, various cables and even 2 vintage cameras. My girlfriend also told me that her makeup and jewelry is also missing. We confronted Carl multiple times. He denied it and suggested it could be my helper, my crew, or my girlfriend's colleagues. We did not believe him, so we installed small security cameras. One day, while Carl was out for an interview, I set up the cameras, connected them to Wi-Fi, and recorded to the cloud. Later that day, while my girlfriend and I were busy, Carl came home and chilled. I told him we had to go to China the next day for a 2-day shoot, and asked if he could stay alone. He agreed and he did not notice any of the cameras. The next day, we left and stayed at a nearby hotel. Almost immediately, we saw him try to open the equipment room. Even though I changed the lock password, he went through the drawers and cabinets, then moved to the office room and took Tiffany bracelets and necklace, plus one of my lenses from my desk, placing them in his bag and eventually leaving the home. I called the police and showed them the footage. A few hours later, Carl had returned and acted innocent, asking why the police were there. When the police reviewed the footage, Carl claimed it was AI footage. But when they checked his phone, they found WhatsApp messages with buyers who purchased the same items for 50% less than the original price. After that, he was arrested. The court date has not been set yet. Some friends think I'm an a-hole, but I don't think I'm an a-hole. My girlfriend is just relieved he got caught. This story is so crazy, I honestly cannot believe it. He was financially struggling and you let him into your house and he steals from you? And he was lying to you constantly? What a terrible person. You should not feel bad for calling the cops on him. And your hidden camera trick was an excellent idea, might I add. Stay far away from that guy and you're definitely not the a-hole. Our next story has a fascinating title, to say the least. Am I the a-hole for snapping at a stranger for leaving period blood on the seat? I, a 24-year-old female, live with my grandparents and my brother, who is a 19-year-old male. A month ago, my grandparents let one of my brother's friends, who is a 19-year-old female, move in for 3 months. She has been living here for about 1 month and a half now. She has been living here rent-free, chore-free, and apparently we're paying for her food too. I'm calling her stranger because I don't know her. She never introduced herself, and my brother had never mentioned her, despite talking about his other friends all the time. My grandma has made this decision with very little input from my grandpa and none from me. I'm currently 8 months pregnant, so I don't have periods anymore. No one else in the house does, besides the stranger. The first time I found period blood on the seat, I was disgusted, but I cleaned it myself and said nothing. The next day, it happened again. I asked my brother to either clean it up or ask the stranger to do so and to tell her to check the seat. He ended up making me tell her because she was in the room with him. I did not know she was in there or I would have addressed her. I politely asked her to please check the seat after using the bathroom because leaving blood there was not sanitary. My brother ended up cleaning it. Today at 4 AM I got up to use the bathroom, which happens a lot now that I'm 8 months pregnant, and there was period blood on the seat for the 3rd time. I was furious. Instead of cleaning it myself again, I went to my brother's door. His room is next to the strangers and I knew they were awake because I could see the lights. I knocked and raised my voice, saying this was the 3rd time and that a grown woman should not have to be reminded to clean up her own blood. I told the stranger to come clean it because I already had a Clorox wipe in my hand. They both came out and I was still upset. She just pulled up the wipe and just dabbed at the blood before throwing it away. I told her dabbing wasn't cleaning it and that she would need to wipe the entire seat. She did so and did not say anything. Then my brother tried to claim it wasn't period blood just like he did the last time. It clearly was. I I've had periods for over 10 years. And I know what period blood looks like. That just made me angrier. I continued saying how gross it was that this kept happening before they went back to their rooms. I feel a little bad for yelling, but this was the third time. I can barely walk at 8 months pregnant, and I don't think I should be cleaning another adult's period blood or repeatedly reminding them to clean up after themselves. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I did not leave the blood. I don't have hemorrhoids or bleed. I also checked the toilet seat before and after since 3 people use it. Not my grandparents either. It's a downstairs bathroom. They can't walk downstairs. I also know it's period blood because the pad wrappers left at the top of the trash can that's right next to the toilet. So, am I the a-hole? Wow, what a fascinating story. I understand you're frustrated from constantly having to repeat yourself, and you're tired and you're 8 months pregnant. First off, I don't think you're the a-hole. I don't think you should have yelled. I understand you feel bad about that, so it's okay. And the female friend of your brother seems a bit strange in my opinion. She doesn't speak for some reason. That's so bizarre. Well, maybe your brother should talk to her about this in private, but I don't think he will do anything since you already repeated yourself a couple of times and you can barely walk and you're pregnant. So I don't think you can do this on your own. So maybe teamwork is the best option. Both of you should talk to her at the same time about this in private. And let us hope that this entire situation will improve itself. Oh, and you should definitely get introduced to her since you've been living together for over a month and you still don't know her name. Becoming more friendly with each other will definitely help solve this situation. Alright, after that fascinating story, we have a story titled Am I the a-hole for not wanting to babysit my niece? Hello everyone. I recently had a baby about 8 months ago. My sister-in-law also had a baby just 2 weeks older than mine. I've been fortunate enough and thrifty enough to stay at home with my baby. This is my second child and I really wanted the stay-at-home mom experience since I worked full-time with my first baby. My sister-in-law needed to return to work, so I offered to watch my niece for free because I know how expensive daycare is. And I wanted her child somewhere safe. She was not comfortable with me doing it for free, so we agreed on $10 per hour. The problem is that my sister-in-law rarely communicates with me directly. Instead, she uses my mother-in-law as the middleman for everything, including the conversation about pay. I told my mother-in-law I'd be more comfortable discussing childcare directly with my sister-in-law, but she said my sister-in-law has social anxiety and is not comfortable having those conversations. At first I accepted that, but recently her work schedule has not been consistent, and those changes have not been communicated to me. I've been left waiting for her to show up, only for her not to come. Or she arrived on days I was not expecting her. Recently my partner, my mother-in-law, my partner's uncle as a mediator and I had a conversation about the issue. My sister-in-law was not there because those discussions make her uncomfortable. We agreed that the 3 of us would sit down together and create a childcare calendar. A few days later, during a family barbecue, I walked inside and overheard my mother-in-law and sister-in-law making the calendar without me. It's now hanging on the refrigerator, but no one has spoken to me about it, confirmed it's my schedule, or even asked me for my input. There's also a lot of unrelated family drama that I'm trying to stay out of. At this point, I feel like I'm doing my sister-in-law a huge favor by watching my niece in my mother-in-law's home, where she's comfortable, while saving her thousands in childcare costs. Yet, I often feel like she's not grateful and treats me like I'm beneath her or not worth speaking to directly. I'm no longer comfortable babysitting, and honestly, the stress and drama are not worth it to me. For background, I've been with my partner, her brother, and the father of my baby for almost 4 years. I've attended countless family gatherings and don't think I've ever come across as unapproachable. My sister-in-law has barely spoken to me during that time, and I've often felt ignored or ostracized. As an only child, I'd always hoped to have a sisterly relationship with her, especially since our babies are so close in age. But that has not happened, and I'm at the point where I'm done trying. Would I be the a-hole if I stopped babysitting, cut my losses, and moved on? Well, you have the right to cut your losses and move on and to avoid drama. And the way she avoids you and uses a middleman to talk to you is honestly not the best. I don't like how they make decisions without asking you for your input, so not wanting to babysit your niece is totally fine. You're not the a-hole. Next up, we have a story titled Am I the a-hole for quitting a well-paying job to open my own store? I've been collecting Pokemon cards since I was a kid. To some people, it's just paper cards, but I really know my stuff, like sets, grading, prices, trading, and I've always dreamed of owning a small collectibles shop. Not a huge business, just a place of my own for the TCG community to which I belong. For the last 10 years, I have been working a corporate job. The pay was good, the benefits were decent, but I was miserable. I'd wake up angry, come home feeling empty, and at some point I realized I was living paycheck to paycheck, even though I had the money. I did not just quit on a whim. I saved up for almost 5 years, drew up a business plan, found a small space, worked out how it will work, and opened a small TCG store. I have mainly Pokemons, but there are also One Piece, football, baseball, and Disney collectibles available. I also host trade nights. Business is not perfect, but it's going pretty good, and I plan to add more collectibles in stock. The rent is covered, customers are coming back, and for the first time in a long time, I'm in peace with my life. The problem is that my wife is constantly nagging me. She says I traded a stable future for a childish hobby. My parents say the same thing. They don't get my excitement and see no future in that business. My friends joke that I've given myself an expensive midlife crisis, even though I'm 32 years old. I realize I used to make more money, but we're paying the bills. I haven't blown through our savings, which are enough to have a decent life. And business has a huge perspective to grow as I will continue to develop it. I'm passionate about it and ready to work relentlessly. That's what I have been dreaming for my entire life. Am I the a-hole? No, not the a-hole. Why would you want to go back to a job which makes you feel miserable? And right now you're paying the bills and you have enough money, so I don't see an issue with you continuing down this path. Everything is alright now and it will continue to be alright, so just shoot for your dreams. Don't let other people's doubts get to you. You're successful now. Coming up, we have a story titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing myself for once? I'm a 27-year-old male. I am the oldest of 4 children. Ever since I got my first job, I have been helping my family with money. If my parents were behind on rent, I helped. If one of my siblings needed school fees, I paid. I even delayed moving out because they said they needed me at home. I never really complained because I thought that's what family does. Last year, I started saving for something I had wanted for a long time, a master's degree. It wasn't cheap, so I stopped giving money unless it was a real emergency. My parents weren't happy, but they eventually stopped asking as much. A few weeks ago, my younger brother got accepted into a private college. My parents asked me to use almost all of my savings to pay his first year's tuition. They said I could always go back to school later because I wasn't getting any younger anyways. I told them no. I explained that I had spent years of my life putting everyone else first, and this was the first thing I was doing just for me. They accused me of being selfish and said I was choosing a piece of paper over my own family. Now, my brother will not speak to me. My parents keep telling relatives that I've changed since I started earning more money. Some of my relatives have called to tell me that family should always come first. The part that bothers me the most is that none of them have offered to help my brother's tuition at all. They all think I should be the one to do it because I've always been the responsible one. For the first time in my life, I chose myself instead of everyone else. Am I the a-hole? First of all, hell no, you're not the a-hole. Not in the slightest. The fact that none of them even offered to pay for your brother's tuition, to even help in the slightest, is very concerning, my dude. Getting a degree would be very useful for you in your own life, so definitely choose yourself in this situation. Don't worry about it. Okay, our next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for pausing my game when a child walked in? I, a 18-year-old male, play video games on my Xbox in the living room. Today, I was playing For Honor, an 18-plus game about medieval fighting and knights, with my mom and our dog on the sofa next to me. My sister, who's 15 years old, was hanging out with her friend, who's a 9-year-old girl from our block. They came in so sister's friend could pet the dog, and I paused the game. When my mom asked me why I paused it as I was in the middle of a fight, I said because it's 18+. Then the friend responded and said, It's okay, I watched 18+ before. I then responded, I don't care, I'm not going to play this game in front of a child. To which my sister called me square and my mother called me obtuse because sister's friend had said she had watched 18+ before, so it was okay. They both chastised me for quite a while before leaving it, and I was left pretty confused and upset. I thought it did not matter because the friend was obviously younger than me and my sister and could have been lying to seem cool, or she could have been telling the truth, but I still don't want to be responsible for exposing a child to violence like that. If she had been 14 or 15 years old, I would have not cared, but I myself definitely watched mature stuff at 9 years old, and I regretted it later. I guess I'm wondering if they're right and I was being a stubborn a-hole for refusing to play the game in front of my sister's friend, or if I'm right in feeling uncomfortable for exposing a child to that. I know my sister was just trying to make me feel upset and probably make her friend laugh. What upset me was my mother continuously telling me I was being obtuse and that it wasn't a big deal. She did so for a while after they left the room. She told me off a little bit and I genuinely did not understand how what I did was wrong or a big deal. So, please tell me, am I the a-hole? Okay, first of all, you're not the a-hole. You did the morally correct thing to do. You're not exposing a child to a violent video game. So yeah, no need to feel bad about that. The world would be a better place if more people had your mindset and moral character. Anyways, moving on. Next up, we have a story titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to let people park on my yard? Neighbor runs a weekly yoga class out of her home. We are generally amicable and had a polite conversation about this prior. This has been an ongoing issue with her clients parking their vehicles on the street. The road is wide enough and the neighborhood is quiet. There is no need for them to pull onto the lawn at all. My yard came with an irrigation system and it's expensive and time consuming to repair. I acknowledge that the sprinkle systems fail anyways. I've sheared enough heads off with the mower to know that, so I can't say for certain it's her customers causing the damage. But to please police it better and respect my boundaries. There is plenty of pavement. You can park along the road each week as you see fit. I don't care. Yesterday when I came home, all I wanted was some peace after an absolutely soul-crushing work week. And, to my dismay, there were 2 vehicles parked almost entirely up on my front lawn. This time, I was a bit more assertive and had left written notes. I made it clear they were not welcome to park on my property, but the pavement was fine. I did turn on the irrigation for that zone until they left. One lady came to my door and at least apologized and we had a reasonable and brief conversation. The $100,000 Mercedes did not and proceeded to drive another 30 across my lawn when she left. Every other individual in this scenario is a retired boomer, whereas I am a millennial trying to raise a family. Am I the only one that finds this type of behavior extremely entitled and disrespectful? I feel bad about the sprinklers. It was quite a passive-aggressive move, but I wanted to make a point and thought bringing some sensory stimulation to the moment might help the message be received. Am I the a-hole? Oh, I had plenty of similar situations in my life where people would park on my lawn. It was super annoying, so you're not the a-hole and their behavior is definitely entitled. You should not feel bad for turning on the sprinklers to make a point, you know? You're not the a-hole, but the people in this story are definitely a-holes. So I'm 1,000,000% taking your side on this one. Alright guys, time for some relationship stories and some relationship drama. Our first one is titled, I, a 34-year-old male, don't trust my girlfriend, who is a 33-year-old female, to prepare food or drink for me anymore. For background, my girlfriend and I have been living together for 11 months. I was working on a project down south when I met her, and we did long distance for a few months. She was down there living with an old college roommate of hers and was struggling to find work. At the time, she was unemployed and the job market there was really bad. I offered to let her move in with me because the job market was much better where I lived, a couple of states north, and we would not have to do long distance anymore. After she moved up here, I bought a used car for her to use and she did find a good job at a call center for a bit. For the last 6 months, she has been unemployed and I have supported her. Over the last 3 months, the relationship has devolved to the point where we are constantly fighting and arguing. After giving her an ultimatum, she finally got a new job that started this week. Last week I got a Ring camera and she was very upset by this, saying it was an invasion of privacy, etc. I should have asked, but it's been helpful with coordinating grocery deliveries and it makes me feel more secure. We fought about it and went to bed. The next morning I came down and she had a coffee ready for me on the table. I look into the coffee and there is something floating on the top. To my disgust, I discovered that she had spat a loogie of snot into my morning coffee. Wait a minute. Pause. What did I just read? That's awful. I immediately confronted her about it and she denied it at first before eventually saying something along the lines of, if I did it, you know why. I told her it was time for her to leave. Initially, I had told her she had to pack and leave immediately, but I ended up walking that back because she had nowhere else to go, no family, and no nearby friends. Despite my extreme disgust, I could not just make her homeless. I told her to clean up the guest room and move her stuff into it. She did, but then came into my room early in the next morning because she can't/is afraid to sleep in there alone. I mostly just ignored her and kept to myself. She tried to mend fences with me by cooking dinner a few days later, and when I looked at the food she had cooked, all I could think about was the ball of snot in my coffee. Last night, while trying to get some sleep, I could not stop thinking about what else she might have done to my food. I told her she needed to move back into the guest room. I've never been in a situation like this before. Am I putting myself in jeopardy by allowing her to stay? I am not sure if this relationship is even salvageable at this point. Should I even try? Well, I am of the opinion that you should not even attempt to salvage this relationship. She might attempt to poison you or do God knows what in the future, so my best recommendation is dump her, cut your losses, and move on. Okay, our next relationship drama story is titled I'm a 26-year-old female boyfriend who is 41 years old, lied about being 31 for 3 months. How do I move forward? A few dates in, I guessed his age and he revealed that he was 31 years old. I was honestly relieved after that. I told him about my previous relationship with my ex, who was 10 years older than me, and I explained that one of the main reasons that relationship has failed was the age gap. I told my current boyfriend that I had become very skeptical of big age gap relationships and that I do not want to date someone significantly older again. I even said I was happy there wasn't a big age gap between us because I wanted for once to be with someone closer to my own age and at a similar stage in life. Over the past 3 months, I really admired him, thought he was unusually accomplished and experienced for 31 years old. I saw him as someone active, ambitious, skilled and ahead in life. I genuinely looked up to him and thought I had found someone who shared my idea of what a good life should look like. I was honestly falling hard for him, partly because I found him to be so admirable and partly because he treated me better than any other man before. I felt respected, cared for and emotionally safe with him, which makes this entire situation even more confusing and painful. Yesterday I found out he's not 31, he's actually 41 years old. I honestly don't know what hurts more, the fact that he lied or the actual age difference. He did not just lie once. We spoke 2 or 3 times about whether large age gap relationships can work in theory, and every time I said I was very pessimistic about them and would not want to try that again myself, he still kept pretending to be 31 years old. Now that I know he's 41 years old, I suddenly see him in a completely different light. The things I admired him for feel different now. For 31 years old I thought he was impressive, but for 41 years old I don't feel the same way. I know that may sound judgmental, but the point is that my entire perception of him was based on false information. I feel like I was being fooled by someone who did not have the courage to be honest with me. I had so much respect for him, and now I feel embarrassed and manipulated. The worst part is that I have real feelings for him now. I don't know how to move forward because the person I was falling in love with feels partly built on a lie. I keep wondering what else he might have lied about. On our first date, he also told me stories about himself that turned out to be basically false. But I forgave it because it was the first date. He had just approached me on the street and he was probably scared of rejection. And he clarified it once things became more serious. He had lied about his job, his ethnic background, and about where he lives, but who cares, right? But with the age thing, he lied for 3 months, even though I repeatedly told him honesty is one of the most important things to me in a relationship. I'm also not even sure if he's really 41 years old now or if that's just another lie. Fun fact, when I met him, 2 other men were also interested in me. I rejected both of them partly because they were in their late 30s and felt too old for me. I consciously chose the man I believed was closer to my own age. How do I handle this? Is this something that can ever be rebuilt after such a big lie, or is this an automatic deal breaker? Well, I myself would not be with someone who constantly lied to me, but you said you have real feelings for him and you really love him, so at the end of the day, it's your own life and you can decide what is best for you. But then again, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely leave. I am of the opinion that there is no point in building a relationship on top of lies. Okay guys, our last story for today is titled My parents, who are both in their 60s, are looking to reconcile with me. I am a 21-year-old male after no contact for 10 years, and my sister's arrest and placement in a mental health facility. My parents and I had not spoken in 10 years until they made first contact about a month ago. I'm sorry, but that sounds like first contact with aliens. Okay, moving on. Given my age, I'm aware why that sounds a bit strange, but I'll fill you in on why that was. So my parents had 3 children originally, my older brother who passed away from cancer when my mom was pregnant with me and my sister was 3 years old. My brother's death was obviously very traumatic for my parents and it made them hold on a little too tight sometimes. And it made them reluctant to face up to reality when my sister started developing very clear signs of a mental illness. I was too young when it started, but I was told she showed a lot of signs of paranoia at a very early age in life. She was also very antisocial and struggled with relationships and friends. She started to hurt animals when she was 7 or 8 years old and she'd have very violent outbursts at random times. She started hurting me when I was 3 or 4 years old. I don't remember it back then, but after a few months I can remember her being very terrifying. When she'd be really hurting me and trying to do crazy stuff, think weapons, she would be talking to herself. There were times where she would accuse me of saying and doing things I have never said or done. She'd be like, I know what you did, I could hear you or see you. My parents would beg me to keep what happened a secret and they would feed me lies to tell adults who asked about my cuts and bruises or the fact I was not sleeping so I looked very tired. They would cry and say we could not lose my sister after we already lost my brother. I was so afraid of them hating me that I obeyed them and lied. My parents did not really have a whole lot to do with my paternal grandparents at this time. When my mom was pregnant with me, they stopped talking except for once a year and I did not meet them until I was a little older. My mom's family were all around though and they all knew what was going on. One time my sister got her hands on our cousin's rabbit and left the body looking really bad. I only saw it briefly, but it's so strange to imagine a child as young as she was doing stuff like that. Because of that, mom's family kept their distance and ignored me when I said she was hurting me too. I think they thought of me as crazy for wanting their help when my sister was such a risk and my parents were burying their heads in the sand because of their grief. A few years later, my sister was hurting herself all the time and she had a collection of knives that helped her do it. She got very agitated one day and my parents never warned me, so I got home from school and I made too much noise or something and then she used her knife on me. I had to be taken to the hospital and CPS was called. Once I got there, when I was interviewed, I had told them everything that had happened and that had been happening for years. I was taken into foster care and my sister was left with my parents, I think. She might have been removed briefly, but either way she continued living with them. After I was removed, my paternal grandparents were contacted, finally learned everything that has been happening and they agreed to take me in. There was a fight between them and my parents. I was kept out of it, but I was aware something went down. I assume that's why my parents did not reach out to me and ask me to lie again, but either way we had no contact at all and my grandparents helped me heal. Around a year ago I saw a report online about my sister being arrested. I read reports as soon as they became available and watched what would happen from a distance. She was found guilty of the crimes she had committed and she was finally, after way too long, sent to a mental health facility instead of a prison. To me it makes perfect sense and I think it's the best place for her because those people will have training. It also keeps her away from people who'll have no clue what to do with her. It made me feel safer just reading it. 2 days ago, after she was sentenced, my parents reached out to me, asked if we could talk, reconcile or work out our differences. Each time they reach out, they have changed their wording slightly. Each time they say they miss me, they love me and they want to fix our relationship. I'm not sure I'm healed enough to know what I should do and I don't attend therapy anymore to speak to a therapist about this right now. But I wanted some opinions on whether I should try to have a relationship or not. One of the reasons I'm even considering it is because of my brother and I know what that loss did to my parents. They failed me and they were wrong in so many ways, but I understand where it comes from. But I also don't feel like I have anything to say to them. Jeez, what a story. It really messed me up. God, you had such a terrible childhood. Now, if I was you, I would try to reconcile with them and forgive them, but I don't know if you have the strength to do that, since you've been through so much pain. But then again, the entire situation with your brother has brought so much pain. So it might be best if you can find it in yourself to forgive them and attempt to fix this relationship. I honestly think that's for the best. So yeah, you guys should definitely sit down and attempt to talk it out if you can. I think that it's honestly for the best. That's pretty much it for today. See ya.